Yo, can you
How
hear
you?
me? We good.
Yeah, we good.
Jess, what's up? How are you?
I'm doing good.
I have to say, this is probably the second show I ever done without Big Mike on here. So it's a blessing just to have you on here without him on here. So I ain't got to deal with none of his banter or anything like that. Maybe you'll be in the comments talking shit later, but it's a good feeling just to be and you on the mic right now. We'll bring our special guest in the middle back. How's your weekend going so far?
So the weekend has been going good. We travel up to celebrate the life of A1C Davion Larry with the Tyndall team, his family out in Malone, Florida. I must say, he was a man that truly inspired everyone else at the age of 31. But just being able to be amongst his family, his church members, even his best friend within the unit here, it truly was a celebration of life for him today.
That's good. I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad you guys got the opportunity to do that. You know, bad situation, bad situation that happened to the young man. I wish him and his family nothing but the best in the future for what they have to endure. But I'm glad you got to go out there and celebrate, like you said, celebrate his life because that's exactly what it is. So I hope everything was well. Hope the drive wasn't too bad. Traffic wasn't too bad. What's the weather like down there right now?
It's actually good. Me not being a beach person, I see a lot of people out here on the beach. I'm a straight country girl. Put me out there in the cornfields, I'll be okay. But yeah, weather is nice out here. I know you over there in Luke, so I should not complain as much, because I got the humidity.
Right. We good right now, but give it another week. We've been hit those hundreds for 6 months straight. We don't get no break with that, but yeah, that's good. Well, real quick question: can you swim?
Yeah, dang.
Oh, I
I
can't
got
swim.
thrown in the creek as a kid, and then
In the creek.
Sergeant Major, Wendy Woods thrusted me in the pool. Every summer I
Yeah.
would go with her to, what was it, the YMCA. So yeah, I had to go into swimming lessons.
Oh, see, I didn't get that. I got thrown to the pool. They found out I couldn't swim and came and saved me, and that was the last time I got thrown in.
Well,
So
we
I
know
have
you
a.
didn't do what Chris Brown just did. He had jumped off the boat in the middle of the ocean, I think.
I didn't hear about that. Heck no, yeah, I ain't gonna be doing that. I ain't gonna do that. I'll stay my feet on solid ground as much as possible. But we got a special guest. I would like for you to bring her in. I know you have a relationship with her, so I would like you to bring her in, and then we'll go ahead and start the show. So I'll leave it to
Yes.
you.
Today we have the dynamic. I call her sister in arms. She's a mother. She is also a survivor. So I really love my relationship with our guest tonight because it takes me back to an event that I learned about her in 2010. But I didn't learn about her story until about 2019 when I was at the enlisted professional instructor education course where she came out and spoke, because then Command Chief Todd Simmons had brought her on through the Air Force Wounded Warrior program. So like just talking to Deondra Parks, it was her inspiring story, but her gut and her grit, I would say. Just listening to her story, and a lot of people, I want them to go back and just read about it, but it is out there on the Google. You can look at her story through the Tyndall Air Force Base, but it talked about her devastating experience as a staff sergeant. And it's when she was actually assigned to the Security Forces Squadron. So, she used to be a cop. And I think that's why I thought about her when we were brainstorming about women as we try to celebrate the women that we serve with for Mother's Day. But she is one of the women that I admire, and I have admired for a long time. So I think she can give us and our audience a peek behind the curtain, like we like to say, and she's going to be her true and authentic self.
Awesome. Let's bring her on. Miss D, how are you doing today, ma'am?
I am doing well. How y'all doing?
We're doing good. So I'm working on like a round of applause or something when we bring our guests on. So it's not like live. So I'm working on that. Yeah, we're working on that. We get it for the future.
Hey, I didn't do like this though. I did like this.
That's good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Miss D, how are you? Everything's good.
Man, listen, I won't complain. Any day above ground is a good day this way, okay?
Yeah, how's Vegas treating you right now?
Vegas is starting to slowly warm up, so you kind of want to do your activities outdoor when you first wake up in the morning, because after that, it's not gonna happen. So the weather is nice, the people are great. Yeah, Vegas is good.
You know what? A small funny story. My wife's birthday's in July. She's never been to Vegas in her life. About 6-7 years ago, I took her to Vegas in July and surprised her. We just got on a plane. I mean, she found out once we got to the counter, but we just had a bag. That's it. We were there for 3 days. Got the limo, from the airport to the hotel with her name on it, like the whole 9 yards. The big mistake I made was taking her out there in July, because she went outside for the first time that day. It was bad. She's like, I want to walk the strip, and she was not trying. We made it from one hotel to the next. Like, all right, we're done. We'll be back out at like 11 o'clock at night. But yeah, that was 3 days of just. That was bad. Won't ever do that again, because she was not loving that. Yeah, I thought I was doing something good and just messed everything up.
Yeah, that heat, the heat out here hit different. It does.
Yeah, it do. Yeah, we out here in Arizona, so we know exactly what you're talking about.
Know.
Yeah,
I was about to say that heat between those two locations is like walking in a furnace. So
yes.
That I'll tell you that blow dryer hit you in the face when you go outside. And it's a wrap. You can't breathe. It just take like the devil just come take everything away from you right there. Yep. Right when you walk outside. What's up, Dale, man? It's good to have you on here. Been waiting on this one. We all been waiting on this one. So I appreciate it. We'll hop right into it. Jess, unless you got anything else, Jess, we can hop right into it.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure our audience know who you were, D, from a professional and a personal level, but I would like you to share a little bit with the audience before we dive into our questions with you.
Yep.
Whew, the good old elevator speech. So I am Deondra Parks. I'm currently still serving on active duty now, assigned to the med group out here at Nellis. I just wrapped up First Sergeant Special Duty in one of the largest AMXS in the Air Force. And let me tell you, we'll probably get into that a little bit later, right? That's a little bit about me. I'm a single mom by choice. Usually when I say that and I can see the audience, they're like, what is that? You know, to me, that is, I went through fertility treatments on my own. And I got this beautiful blessing here. You might hear if her iPad goes dead or she just want to come give me some love, but her name's Given Maxine. That's my pride and joy. She's 3 years old. She's also diagnosed with autism. And so I'm a huge advocate as far as being special needs parents serving on active duty. So that's a little bit about me. Came in a defender, literally was that girl who from Cincinnati, Ohio. What I remember about high school is, classmates dying from gun violence, our city in riots. Had a really, really, really good friend, Officer Adrian Brown. I told her I want to be a police officer. Granted, she told me not to do that. It was something I look forward to. I graduated high school, passed the preliminary exams to get into the academy, but it wouldn't be a class for about 3 years. And listen, 3 years in Cincinnati time, you're waiting to become a statistic of some sort, right? And so I decided to join the military, and I was that girl that went in the recruiter's office and I said, I want to be a cop. And of course, the recruiter, that was the easiest day for that recruiter, wherever they
got it, yes.
Okay, you know what I mean? And made that happen. And I remember before I went off to MEPS, he goes, we got these 3 jobs. It was weather, aircraft maintenance, and security forces. And I said, I want to do security forces. I want to do law enforcement. The Air Force later taught me attention to detail because it said 2 weeks of law enforcement and 11 of air-based defense. And so never got an opportunity to do law enforcement, but I'm telling you, security forces took me around the globe immediately from Daegu Air Base, Italy, Osan, Iraq, Tinker. You hear me? So I got to see the world most definitely, and had an opportunity to retrain. Did just that, and had we'll talk about a tragic event occurred during my retrain. That definitely I definitely fell on my face and recognized how important my faith up until that point was in my recovery process. And so had an opportunity to become a medic, and that's what I've been doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Real quick, Jess, before we get started, and make sure I put this out here, anything that comes from Unpopular Celebrities podcast is all unofficial. None of the conversation or comments from us or the guests represent the DoD or the Air Force as a whole. All right, make sure we put that out there so we can protect our DD-214s is coming up. So make sure we good on that. But I'm going to learn a lot from this podcast, I believe. Everybody knows I don't have any kids. Never really had an aspiration to have any kids at all. So I'm going to learn a lot, and I've learned a lot in the past maybe month about young females in security forces with kids. And I'll probably if we have an opportunity to talk about a situation that happened with me, about one that happened and just threw me on my face. It really was an emotional day. Wasn't anything bad, just the fact that the airman came, how she came, and it was an emotional day and time. But security forces, and so your first base was Italy.
Yeah. So my first I came in the Air Force. I'm like, I want to go to Italy. And I remember my instructor going like, yo, you got Italy, but you got to go to Korea first, right? And I'm like, okay. I landed in Daegu, literally made 2 lefts, and I never left the airfield because the base is right there on the airfield, commercial and military. But then my next assignment was Italy. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Jess, go ahead.
So Dee, we are going to just jump into it. So we're starting our segment with honoring women that are serving, specifically, mothers, because Mother Day is getting ready to come up next month. And as you have highlighted to us, you choose to be a mother. Being a mom to Givens and then a first sergeant, how can you describe their role? How has it been for you?
Listen, and I get pinged often by fellow first sergeants who have moms just parents, single parents in general that want to become a first sergeant or step into a special duty. And they're like, can you talk to them, tell them how you do it? They need to know if they can juggle this. And my response is, it really should not be hard to take care of airmen, right? If you set your priorities, and with me, that's God, myself, my family, everything else falls after that, right? And my response is also, I'm the only one in the unit that have to answer my phone 25/8. You know, my commander can tell me, listen, don't call me unless it's life, limb, or eyesight. Don't wake me up. Oh, okay. But I woke up for everything in between. You get what I'm saying? But I realized when I took this on, Chief Perry, our Diamond 1 Special Duty Manager, said to us that it's not our job to do everything, but it's our job to make sure everything gets done, right? And I embody that, not just within that special duty, but in everything I do. And a first sergeant can easily steal the joy and the thunder of a supervisor. And so I try not to do that. I'm going to be there regardless on the good or the bad days, right? And so when something occurred with our airmen, I always make sure I involve the supervisor, flight chief, section chief, right? The people that work with them day in and day out, because regardless, I'm going to have a hand in it, no matter what it may be, right? And so that helped me as a single parent to thrive in that career field. What did not help me was the stereotypes of single parents, right? And so there were a lot of times where I unfortunately lost an airman in the middle of the night. I'm pulling up with detectives, and someone look over at me and go, "Where's Given? Where's your dog?" You know what I mean? Don't ask for how I took care of mine. Like it takes a tribe and a village. You get what I'm saying? I'm where I'm supposed to be. And guess what? If I couldn't be here, it's going to be okay because the checklist is still going. I don't need to be here to make sure that it happens, right? And so it's just coming back on those stereotypes. And sometimes I felt alone in doing that, you know, and it got tiring, you know? And the stereotype of being a single parent. So also us single parents, we're very defensive. Parents in general.
Yeah.
We're very defensive, right? So kind of how I was that night, like, what do you mean? Where's your pet, right? And so I also say that to say, people only know what you tell them, right? And so every time I PCS or I get a new commander or whatever it may be, I say, hey, my child has special needs. I've chosen to put her in the only therapy approved by TRICARE for autism, right? And because I need her to thrive. I don't want her in the CDC sitting alone playing by herself, not causing trouble, but there for 12 hours. And choosing to do that, I knew what that would do to me in my career, right? But at some point, this uniform comes off. And if my child wasn't given the opportunity to thrive, I don't know if I could live with myself, right? And every commander said, okay, as long as you're where you're supposed to be, I have no issues with that. So it's about putting it out there, being transparent, open, and honest, and not using it as a crutch, if that makes sense. Now, I did notice during COVID, single parent compared to meal, I had my shit together. And my heart went out to the meal families because they had to make decisions on, no, my job is more important. No, your job is not important. Oh, y'all don't do this. I have to do this. You should stay home with the kids and telework. I have to go do this. And for my unit I had at the time, what it helped them to realize was they weren't working as a team up until that point. You know what I mean? As far as parenting. And so I say that to say, being a single parent and being meal to meal, it's the same. It's tough. They're both tough. Yeah.
Yeah, gotta be really tough. And like I said, I'm gonna learn so much from this, and I'm excited because I love to learn and help me get closer to the airmen that I have to supervise. That I have no idea what they go through, and it's kind of funny. It's not funny to me. It's weird that a lot of parents, it seems like, will hide or won't tell the story all the time of the struggles they go through. And I'm not sure why that is, but it seems like that until it's almost like, oh, I've been dealing with this and I've been dealing with, like, shoot, I had no idea. And even now I have no idea. Why really is that? And Jess, probably you can get on this too, but why is that, like, parents choose to hide? I don't want to know hide's the right word, but not disclose problems.
So you got to think about it. I think we're trying to evolve from a culture. and I'm not saying old school culture, but you got to understand where you have some people that believe the Air Force didn't give you your family. So it's like, it's not my job to help you facilitate resources for your family. Therefore, it's your problem. But now I think we have tremendously changed with the way that we look at family in the Air Force, because at the end of the day, like Dee said, like we take this off. I always tell my people, I remember like when I first got a divorce almost 3 years ago, and people never knew I got a divorce because it wasn't something that I wanted to highlight. And Tony and I always thrive in the atmosphere of, we did not get divorced because of infidelity or anything. We were so young, we grew apart. But to know that our kids are the most important concept to us has been so important. And like now as a mom, like I'll be honest, like I struggled so much when I left Keesler to go to Dyess by myself because they were 12 hours away from me. But at the end of the day, we don't like to share those things. So like my oldest struggled a lot. Like she had body shaming. And if anybody knows my daughter, like Mimi is taller than me. I said, girl, you got stuff that people go out and get added to their bodies. Like you got butt, I was like, you're built, you're athletic, you're a track star. But that shook my baby for a while. And I'm like, you, D, I had to realize like I have every day to be a great airman. But you know what? I don't have every day to be a great mother. And, I decided, and I tell my kids all the time that the secret to sacrifice is that I may not be happy, but my job is to make sure as the mom that you're always happy. And that comes with sacrifice. And I don't think, some of us have reached that level of understanding of knowing, like, I'm with you, D. My faith comes first. I believe God wholeheartedly. My family second. And my family is even blood, people that are not blood. But the people that have been in my village just helping me understand, like, hey, we got you. We're going to wrap our arms around you to make sure that your kids are your number one priority. But I think the Air Force, like we have people, like some of the best supervisors, and I know you said, Pete, y'all don't have kids, but some of the best supervisors that I had did not have kids. And I'll go back to my very first base. And I know they may listen, they may not listen, but it's Chief Retired Lonnie Slater and Senior Master Sergeant Retired Carrie Slater. Carrie Slater was my functional for comm when I first came in. They don't have any kids. But what they helped me realize is how to mature as a service member. And Carrie helped me mature as a young woman. Between her, Annie Hollins, Tanya Noble, and Cephas Franklin, they made me become like a mom. Things that my own family were not able to give me at that time. So I think like what Dee has been able to do is demonstrate, like, yes, I'm a single mom in one of the toughest career fields. Because I do look at first sergeants like, you're the heartbeat. And I constantly tell my people, like, as the chief, like, my first sergeant gets direction from the commander. As a chief, I'm only responsible for making sure I develop that first sergeant because I want them to eventually take my place as a chief one day. But being in your role is so dynamic because you deal with so many different people and you deal with their issues no matter the time. But at the end of the day, like, that's what I wanted to know. Like, we always talk about self-care Sundays. Like, what are you doing? I know like ACC, they have a great initiative in trying to take care of their first sergeants as well. But like, what are you doing when you talk about self-care from your role as a mom and as a first sergeant?
I love that question. But before we move on, why don't they speak up? Because they think they're alone on an island. Right. So whenever I get to a unit and whenever I'm talking to a roll call or commander's call, I just remind them, you're not the first person to go through what you're going through. Right. Reach out, need help. We don't know what you need. You need to let us know and talk to us. But it's also pride in maintenance. I met a lot of male single dads, right, making it happen. And it's a lot of pride. I had one male, his ex-wife was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She attacked the gate guard. She was banned from base. He lived on base with his children. It was a very, very complicated situation. But this member was expected to be at work, but he didn't know how to parent alone, right? So out of 700 people, I had to take the time to help him because I understood what he needed as a mom. And not just because I had a child. I'm like, where are these babies going? They both under 5, right? So I helped him get his children in the CDC, right? Helped him come up with a budget, right? And put them in before and after school care, things that he's never done before. shit that I've never done before. You know what I mean? But I'm like, what do I need to do to help you succeed? You know? And one of the last things that I did was I found out she's going to serenade y'all. Trust me.
No, you good. You good. We can hear you clear.
But I realized that I had several
like Anita Baker later.
I realized that I had several airmen going 100 miles per hour. If you've ever been stationed here at Nellis, most don't live too close to base, but the better schools are a little further out. But driving 100 miles per hour to get to roll call, and I said, "Is roll call necessary to be at this time? Can we move it to this time? I know I'm just a medic cop. I don't know much. You know, the easy answer is no, but I'm like, let's get to yes. And I eventually got my chief to get to yes, right? But again, closed mouths don't get fed. But it's like you have to care, man. It's about caring. But it's hard to convince, I'd say, maintainers, especially in security forces, those airmen, that they're the most important resources when they're guarding and working on our most important resources, right? That's pretty hard. But when it comes to self-care,
you hit a good point, because last week Dale kind of spoke on this, like how he had an airman and the airman had a bad experience with just one person, and it eroded the level of trust that he had with other people. So I think that's another problem as well. Like they probably went to someone previously and it wasn't like a good situation. And now they're like, hey, I'm not going to put myself in that situation again. So like you said, it's like, how do I get that person to open up again with me as a new person with their experience?
Yeah, and an outsider, it's definitely tough. Self-care for me, it's not a privilege, it's a right. It's a no-brainer. My last command chief was 57. He just retired, Chief Master Sergeant Villarreal. He's the reason why I'm even out here at Nellis. Oh my gosh, great man. But he said in my briefing when I first got here, take a Friday. You don't got to pass off your phone, but you don't need to be on this base. I said, okay. You know, and so there I am. Listen, I might have went and got my nails done, stuff that I would have to pay a babysitter to go do, you know, but if that phone rang, I was picking it up and I was where I needed to be. But taking that Friday, every other Friday, and being reachable, but not present, you know what I mean? That helped me so much. So again, self-care to me is definitely it's a right. It's not a privilege. And whenever I reach out to anyone or talk to anyone, I say, you better be being good to yourself, because come on now. Come on. We all we got. And I see Dale asked this question about.
I was about to go to it real quick. I got to read it on my phone because I can't see this far from the screen. But I applaud the Air Force on allowing single parents to move closer to their kids. But I've heard it is complicated and it takes a while to get approved. What are your thoughts? Man, I did good on that. I need to applaud myself.
So it is actually quick.
Yes, Go ahead, Jess, because you're the guru.
No, ma'am. You know, I got drafted by Personnel and Services. So shout out to the 3F community for drafting me.
So let me go ahead as the first sergeant guru then. The child custody the child custody assignment, right? Yep. So that program, come on, y'all, attention to detail. My parents applying for it, read the fine print, y'all. The Air Force wants you to get together to come up with a plan that mirrors your child custody agreement, get in a rhythm, right? Because in 365 days, you might be PCSing somewhere else, but at least you got a good rhythm going, all right? Okay, so summer's here, holidays here, or whatever it may be, because a lot of our divorced active duty members have custody agreements that they haven't enacted. So here recently, I had a young man who's here on that assignment, thanks to that program, but he got popped for an assignment. He's like, what? Like, I'm not ready to go, right? And I'm like, okay, you know, like, I'll help you get to yes, you know what I mean? But I'm not the final answer. And so we were able to get him extended a program 1 more year, right? But I told him, hey, you know, that was a blessing, but you guys need to come up with a plan. This isn't you all will be at Nellis for the next 15 years of your career. You know what I mean? That's not what that program is. It's not. But I've seen it work great for a lot of people, especially, I love to call them my Brady Bunch families, but like our mixed families, right? Divorcees or whatever, going to be with their exes and their kids and marrying them up together to be stationed together. I've seen the program work for the good, right? But then seeing it expire in a year and then families being torn apart again, it was kind of heart wrenching. But I'm like, hey, you need to read the fine print on the intent of the program. But yeah.
And it is true, like from a AFI or DAF perspective, you, depending on the ages of the children, it can last. I think, like for me, my kid, the youngest one is 7. So obviously I utilized the child custody order, and myself and Tony came to an agreement. But if anyone needs advice on that, like, we're available to help you all. And again, that divorce decree is very important in the signature of your ex-spouse. Just agreeing like, hey, for a limited time frame, at least you'll afford it this time. And I always tell members, like, for me, I couldn't get stationed at Maxwell because that would have put me like 15 minutes to my kids. However, I am 3 hours away, and it's a much better than being 12 hours away. So I would say, like, utilize the program to your advantage, and just, like I say, live for the moments to create moments. And that's the best thing when you're using this program.
So what was it before? It was just, you just tried it. I know there was codes before, like you had
no,
the A code.
There was really nothing before except for except for someone caring enough to make that happen and empathizing enough. But going to Korea and getting a follow-on, like BOP, which is now, rescinded or done. That's how parents were making it happen.
That's crazy.
And then some were even making the decision to celebrate. Most here recently, I had a member selected for an overseas assignment, and the ex-spouse said, you will not, sir, you won't take our child overseas, right? According to our custody agreement. And so my active duty member is like, I can't split my family if I can't be away from my family for, 2 or 3 years. What do I do? And I'm just like, good point. Right? And so we pushed a hardship, and the assignment got canceled. But I don't know, what if it comes back around? Hell, what if Korea comes around? What are you going to do? You know what I mean? But yeah, those are tough ones.
Yeah, but like you said, I think being in a position to actually advocate for it as well. Because I've had some members in my unit to where, in their divorce decree, they could not take their kids out of a particular state. So it's like, those are things like your assignments functional will not know, or your MAGCOM functional will not know. And I think it's imperative that we, as senior leaders, communicate those things on the behalf of our members, because it will work out once we're able to connect that link and have them understand.
Yeah. Well.
Another question from Brown, then we'll get into some other stuff. Let me read it off of here because it ain't gonna work. Another struggle I see in the Air Force with single parents, that the CDC on base doesn't cater to swing shift and mid shift personnel. Have y'all heard of the switching anytime soon? So in the SFS world.
Being in FSS, yes, I have learned a lot about the CDC. The guru for the Air Force is Miss Patty Marins. She actually came out here to visit Tyndall Air Force Base as we rebuild the CDC here. I think that this is just knowledge or education. So when you're working with MilCon constructions, you have the Air Force Civil Engineering Center involved, you have the NDR. So all of these individuals are working together based off of contracts. And then, like, from an FSS perspective, we have EF and E, I may mess that up, but it's like equipment, furniture, and something else. But all of these things have to work and be in sync. And with the CDC, it's, federal law on top of like what the DOD regulations are for these CDCs, the capacity, for example. But the most important thing with the CDCs that a lot of people don't understand is the employment of the personnel that needs to work there. So you have the NAF, which is the non-appropriated employees, and then you have the APF, which is the GS employees.
Right.
So most of the CDCs obviously operate through that NAF. When you don't have a lot of NAF personnel that are able to work, that diminishes the amount of rooms that you're also allowed to have open in these CDCs. So when I tell you, like, it's a big problem across the Air Force, it is extremely a big problem. When you look at the people that we're hiring, they have to go through background checks. So, and you got to think about it. People working at the CDC, the NAF, I want to say about 2 years or last year received a raise, like a $15 raise, but that raise isn't enough. So the onboarding of a NAF employee takes about 4 to 6 weeks. But at the same time, it's like, if I could do the same job and get paid more money off base, they go. So then the Air Force, again, is looking at retention programs to try to help just keep people for the basic need of, hey, that's 6 o'clock to 1530 or 1600, not 1600, but 18 the end of the day. Yes. So even with mid shift, you have the option of the FCC, and those are those family care providers. But it's so unique, and again, it's based off of each area in the Air Force. Like, even though I'm in Tyndall and we're recovering from the hurricane, they're still rebuilding. Our CDC was supposed to be open last year in October. We have a tentative open date of June this year. But then I think about our partners down the street at Eglin and Herbert and what they're dealing with. Again, you have people that work at Eglin and Herbert, and they're having to travel like 30 or 45 minutes away from their location of work just to find adequate childcare for their kids. So when I tell you all, like, this issue is at the Pentagon, it's at our service branches, like those chiefs, our senior leaders, like, they're aware. But I did read today, the thing that is interesting is what President Biden signed, just about helping relieve some of the child care fees with child care. So I'm looking to dive a little bit deeper in there, and I hope that you all do as well, just so that we could be familiar with the impact or the assistance that it will provide for us.
Yeah. And here recently, listen, again, you already said that Chief Bash, they recognize the problem from EFMP to childcare and the need, all that jazz, right? We're trying to get after it, but one of the most recent initiatives that just included Nellis Air Force Base as well, or Las Vegas, is if you have a family member above the age of 18, they will pay them to keep your child. Okay. They're able to keep your child. And so I think that's creative, because a lot of our families, and Act Through the Family, we have members that live in our home, even if it's an older sibling, just, in the home, or a grandparent or in-law, whatever it may be, this person can be, hired to keep your child. And I think that's great. Because even in the EFMP program, if you qualify for respite care, we have a shortage of respite care providers, you got to go from here and back to Wakanda to get pretty much certified to be able to even do that. And EFMP families such as myself, we're authorized 40 hours a month. But when there's no providers available, some months those 40 hours are going to waste.
Right.
It's tough, but how do we combat that at our level and below? Right. Grace, compassion, empathy. Right. And does this really need to happen? How can we get to yes? Because on top of not having coverage for mids and swings, some of our parents, just like I said earlier, don't know how to parent, don't know how to be creative. Will take one answer, you have to be here, from their supervisor, and take that and run with it. It won't give your SDLs an opportunity to get to yes for you, to shift your shift to something that may work for you. You know what I mean? Again, our airmen are working in these silos. They really are. And I just need the DOD, and I think that we are, because it was just mentioned in the comments. I think it's going to take a team approach for us to get the coverage that we need, from lodging, youth center to mental health, right? And so for me, let's talk a little bit about mental health. There's a shortage, okay? So right now we're talking about the difference between being injured and being hurt, right? CSAF sent out the MO resilience. What does that mean? It looks like going to your peers, talking to your supervisors, talking to your first sergeants, talking to your inflags, your chaplains. It can all start there. You know what I mean? And so when it comes to getting mental health care, we were backed up on base, and I had to wait about 45 days to be seen. I couldn't. And so I went to the vet center off base, which is a resource that should be in every major city. And they're growing from that as well, too. And it's my decision if I want to sign a disclosure to have that information sent to base, which I do. I'm on active duty. Mm-hmm. But the vet center, you can drop in and just talk. And I love that. And one thing I also love about that is they don't let anyone know that you were there, and they don't talk to each other about you being there either. So it's another underutilized resource as well too. Military One Source, it was a time where the system was clogged up and I couldn't get through and get a provider. And so everything that's happening to me, I know that it's happening to my airmen. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's why I always remain transparent with them. I'm trying to, but did you try this? You know what I mean? Don't stop. When it comes to your mental health, do not stop because you don't like there won't be an appointment for this long, or they kicked you off base and not on base.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Pete.
No, please go ahead, Jess.
And it's like go in there as well with the plan. I think I'm like you. When I couldn't get like Military One Source or get in right away to mental health, I started using Telemynd, and it's TELEMYND. Long as you put on your DOD benefits number, like you're able to see a provider like 7 days a week. And I think that helped me. But I went last week, and I think it was so humbling and nice to see my own airman walk out, and then she saw me walk in to the provider. Mm-hmm. And I say that because, you know, they look at me like, you know, oh, chief, you got it together. You be doing this, you be doing that. But I was like, you know, your chief is doing what we have been told to do, which is persevere. Like I'm supposed to be resilient. And I share with her the reason why, like, you know, being away, and, you know, we're talking about being a mom, but in February at my son's school, Redland Middle School, they had a young man that brought a weapon, and Tamora was actually in the area trying to talk this individual down with the weapon. Yeah. And, you know, when you're away from your kids as a mom, and then like everything that you see on the news, like I had a panic attack because all I got was the message on my phone. His dad and I are going back and forth trying to figure out like, hey, have you heard from him? And then like he sent my aunt a message, but then he unsent it. And to know like when my son got home and he's explaining to us his feelings, and I'm like, you know, for me, you know, I'm like, yo, Jessica, like, you're done. And when I say I'm done, like some people take that as a, you know, negative indicator. And I'm like, no, I'm not done. Like, I love what we do in the Air Force. Like, I love our country, but I love my kids. And I just don't want to ever be in a position where something happens to my kids and I'm not there. And that hit me. It hit me really hard. And I was like, you know what? Let me go and unpack everything that's in my head. And I've been going like ever since February, like in person, because I couldn't go until this month in person. And it has helped me tremendously, just trying to operate as a service member again, you know, as an SEL, because we always got to be available. We always got to make sure, you know, hey, like you said, get the yes. Sometimes we be dog ass tired, but it's like we forget the most important aspect is our family that is waiting on us to respond back to them too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. Man, that's a lot to unpack right there. I want to come back to something, but D, I want to move forward. I know Jess mentioned that you had something tragic happen to you and that you would like to talk about. I don't know how to tee this up. I'm sorry, I'm not professional with this, but I don't know how to tee it up. I don't know how to tee it up.
Mike in here throwing them little jabs.
Yeah, exactly.
30% because they had a power outage.
Yeah, so he says. But no, I would like to, if you want to, kind of talk about it and you know, hear about your story, if you will.
Oh, of course. So again, I came in security forces. When I got deployed to Balad, Iraq, you're going to hear my kiddo flush the toilet. When I
that's
came,
that's good. That's good. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I got short. No, listen, y'all. Everybody is my business, okay? Every airman is my airman, and I can't turn that off. I don't know how to turn it off. So there I was in the dormitories in Aviano Air Base, Italy, and I heard a commotion. I come out, and there was a young man laying in the courtyard bleeding. So I run downstairs to render aid or whatever it may be, and I'm talking to him, talking him through it. And so this young man was due to deploy within the next couple days. And so unfortunately, due to the incident, he was taken off the deployment. And who do y'all think was put on the deployment?
Right.
Me.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, should I have just stayed in my room? And so I replaced him on the deployment to Balad, Iraq, and I left within the next week. And so when I got there as a defender, whatever your post may be, you have a response time for your internal, external start, whatever it may be, your assistance if something goes down. And we got mortared. Balad was mortar city. We got mortared so much. And I remember being on a tower. You rotate out the tower every 4 hours, but I remember being up there on my own and just looking out into the city, telling myself, realizing I'm going to be a speed bump. Man, that's my job. I'm a speed bump. I'm going to slow this down, whatever may happen. And so I said, hey, what would you do if you were ever put in a situation where you couldn't defend yourself thoroughly, right? What would you do? And so I'd be up there coming up with different things in my mind, remaining vigilant. But ultimately I said, you know what, if this was overran, I would play dead, you know? And that's not the security person would ever teach you, you know? But I'm like, listen, that'll be something I do. And so fast forward, I was back, I got back to Italy, and if you're overseas, one of those fine print things, your retrain window can open up a little early.
Right.
And mine did. So although I have been waiting for those 59 months, some told me to check at 58 to see if I can retrain. and I could, it opened. And one thing I wanted to do was be a medic. I wanted to be a medic. I wanted to help people. I love being a defender. I enjoyed the job. I was certified on so many weapons. I can take them apart, put them together. I adore people. I love talking to people, but I really wanted to help people. And I believe that being a medic will help me do that. And so I got picked up to retrain, and I got sent off to tech school in Wichita Falls, Texas. And I was about 2 weeks into training there. So we would have class, mandatory training, and then I would go off based on my own to study, because as a retrainee, there's no going back.
Right.
You know what I mean? The Air Force at that time gave you about 30 days to get nationally certified on EMT. Whereas in the civilian world, they got 6 months to whenever they feel like it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it was a lot. And so I was killing it. And so one night, 2 of my classmates asked to go study with me, right? And so I told them where I go. And about 9 o'clock at night, we went to a location off base of Wichita Falls called Hastings. As a defender, being vigilant, I chose the seat near the exit. We ordered some coffee. They got a book that I suggested, and we sat down and we began to study.
Hey, real quick, what's Hastings? Like a Starbucks or something, or?
So it's like a Barnes and Noble. It's like a bookstore with a cafe in it. So we were sitting there. Can I still take an M4 part? Yes, I can. So it has the cafe inside of it. So I sat there. We sat there, we began to study, and then I felt someone next to me, and I look up because I don't know anyone in Wichita Falls, and he said, hey niggers, it's Hitler's birthday. And I said, before I could say anything, I looked in his eyes and I just realized he was not there. Not there.
Were all y'all African American that were there?
So at that table, 2 of us were African American, and one she's Asia Pacific Islander.
Okay.
And then because of my vigilance, it was 2 of us African American at that table. It was a young lady sitting also in a couch-like area, and then the barista was African American. So it was 4 that I knew to be in that residence. And so when he opened fire, so after he said that, my classmate pushed back from the table and he pulled up a 12-gauge shotgun, shot in her direction. I got up to run, and as I'm running, defender life, I'm up, they see me, I'm down. Like I've been through too much training. I've been deployed. I've guarding resource, all this stuff. I'm like, Deondra, you're making yourself a target. And as I was realizing that, I got grazed in the left side of my face. And so I got down to play dead, right? Because there's nothing else that I could do. And so I'm laying there playing dead, and I see it was pure chaos. It was chaos. There were people hiding in plain sight, frozen, going in every which direction. And so I laid there and I'm like, let me go ahead and just play dead. I don't want him to come shoot me. Although I feel like I got pretty far. And so while I was doing that, he shot me at close range through my leg, my right leg. And because I didn't want him to shoot me again and finish me off, and because in that moment, I recognized that I'll be damned if I beg him for my life, I remained quiet. And he left, but he left that location, hadn't shot 4 of us. He went to another location called, at the time it was called Toby's, and a young man, Tim Donnelly, he had just separated from the Army. He stopped me from entering, but Tim perished. He was shot at close range twice. But he saved so many people at that location. And my attacker did what most active shooters do. He retreated and he committed suicide. And so that was April 20th, 2010. And I'm going to tell you, being born and raised in Cincinnati, Ohio, no one in their right mind, teachers, friends, mentors, ever thought to tell me that April 20th was Hitler's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew that. I know some other things about 420, right? But I never knew that. And so, and to this day, when I share my story, most people don't know what that was. But what I also knew it to be was a Columbine anniversary. And then that was a rough year for Texas because it was several months before that the Fort Hood shooting occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And so that happened then. And so we were life flighted to Dallas Parkland. But before we left, we were all treated in the same facility. It was considered a mass cal. And so we were life flighted because of our injuries to Dallas to receive more care and ongoing consistent care. And I stayed there for about 30 days. I remember waking up and my first visitor was the AETC commander. He's sitting there. You know how generals sit, legs crossed, looking so sophisticated. He goes, what do you need from me? And I said, well, in my mind, I'm like, I updated my VRED. I did that right. I know my family would be notified. Listen. And so I said, when I get better, can you still let me retrain, please?
Wow.
And he laughed to himself and he said, don't you think about that? And I remember that conversation to this day. And I really don't share it much, but he laughed. He said, don't you worry about that. And I said, okay. Now went to sleep, got some rest, got some amazing visitors from across the AFMS, even though I just been in the career field for 2 weeks, and returned to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma, got amazing care, underwent several more surgeries, and then the year later, I was able to retrain. Yep. And returned back to training, which is now METC at Fort Sam Houston, and I became a medic. Yep.
I don't even know what to say. Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
I downplay it a lot.
I said that she would be a great.
Right. And yeah, to be honest, like Jess did not prepare me for all this, which is fine, which is good. I'm really, really good with it because this is the part of our show that we do is all impromptu. So this is a part of it, and I think people's reactions is kind of stealing my reactions as well. I don't even know really what to ask or what to say. Jess, please help me with something. Help me.
I think, again, Dee, thank you so much for sharing your story. And I say thank you so much for sharing your story because even after that, you still, your level of care for other people. Hands down, like regardless, and that's what I love about you. Like every time you tell this story and listen to it like over and over again, it's just you touch people the story because looking at you, they will not know what you have been through. And that's why I enjoy when you tell it so much because you are a survivor. You're not a victim. In everything that you've ever done, you have never portrayed yourself as a victim.
Man.
I was just it's just I never know what that situation is like. And you being a defender, me being a defender, we always train for this stuff, but there's a difference between training and real world. Always is. And a lot of people, it's hard to put yourself in that situation. Oh, I would have done this and I would have done this. And it's easy to say sitting on my stool right now in the comfort of my AC in my home, but putting yourself in that situation, even if something were to happen, I got my window right here, if something were to happen in the window, what would I've done or how to do it? And I just don't know. And so I guess kind of a question is, do you remember anything going through your head? Was everything just going so fast, or what was kind of going? I know you said you kind of just after that shot kind of grazed you, you kind of just wanted to stay still and hopefully not he would bypass you and maybe leave. But what was going through your head when? I mean, I'm sure it happened really quick.
Oh, it definitely, everything happened fast and but then at the same time at a snail's pace. Hearing him reload twice, right? So, I mean, not twice, 3 times. So he came in loaded. So we each got two. Right? Screaming white power. And in my head, what always kept going through my head is like, this is what happens in a mass shooting. Like, just like that in my head, this is what happens. This is what happens. And then laying there, I'm like, this is how I'm going to die. And so I am a product of accepting death and living. So that's why I say, like, there are no bad days, moments, weaknesses, like upset, like disappointments, yes, but y'all, like, I accepted death, right? And at that time, I told you we were a mass cow. I'm a defender and going through this accelerated medic training. So I'm laying there bleeding out. I don't know where it hit, where it could have been, because 9 people killing buckshots went through my body, right? So I don't know where they are, what they're doing to me, but I'm listening to the radio and I'm watching this police officer shake. He's shaking. Got a 9mm in one hand, his radio in the other hand, he's shaking, and I'm listening. They don't have him. We're in pursuit. They don't have them. I'm like, I'm going to die right here, because help is not going to come until they know that it's safe, right? And that no one else is coming behind him. You know what I mean? And so we eventually got loaded up. My friend, she was grazed on the back of her head and her palm was blown out. And then I was hit in my lower extremity. So we were transported together in the same ambulance. And I'm just like, oh my God, like this city was just shook, was just rocked, right? And so fast forward to November 2016, I was able to go back and visit and meet the mayor, the police chief, those police officers that are now detectives, doing better things. They're like, oh my gosh, you exist, because I was just vapor after that night. They didn't get to meet me. You know what I mean? And they got to tell me their stories. And one in particular, he apologized. He said, I got right behind him and I followed him. I knew that was his vehicle. And he was like, I followed him. I did not want to mess it up. You know what I mean? And I could tell what he was trying to tell me was, maybe I should have done more. You know what I mean? So maybe I should have pursued him. You know what I mean? He's like, but I just followed him. And I took the route of where he followed him. And it was a long route. But I can't imagine what was going through his head. And hearing the other story of another cop not waiting, getting out, seeing the shotgun in the back of the vehicle and running into the home, because they didn't know that it was his sisters. They thought that maybe it was, someone else, another innocent victim. And so running in, no questions asked, to help save someone if needed. And so hearing those stories, definitely eye-opening. But back to what was going through my head was just, this is how I'm going to die. And so just to lighten things up a little bit, y'all, my mom is so dramatic. And all those things you know about yourself and the people you love in those moments still reign true. So I told the police officer in the hospital, don't call my mom. Call my dad, please.
Right.
And so he calls my dad. My dad's blue collar work. He didn't answer. So he calls my mom. This is such and such at a Wichita Falls Police Department. I'm calling for Mr. She's like, what? My daughter's in Texas. Click, whatever. Calls me. My phone is blowing up because I wouldn't let anyone take it because I don't know these people. And I answer and she goes, where you at? What happened? And that's how I had to tell my mom. But being how she is and how I am, how she raised me, I needed her to know that I was okay. Yeah. But I needed my mom. And there is no there's no program even to date that understands that someone needs their mother, their person, their caregiver, whoever that may be. And I never thought I would have to say it as much as I had to in that moment. The amount of time it took me to finally take leave and go home. Now, granted, my family came in, but the amount of time and work it took for me to be able to go home, we got to do better. And as a first sergeant, I've done better in that area. As soon as a tragedy happens or something occurs, one of my first 5 things to do is wounded warrior, get the casualty status in there, get the family out there. Okay, is there a facility closer to family that we can send this member to? Because I didn't get that opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's just how I've operated as a first sergeant. But I'm trying to tell you guys, one crowd that I have shied away from interacting and talking to are my defenders, because I need to convey and get them to understand how important it is to take what they do seriously, because that training saved my life. That mindset saved my life.
Wow. Wow. I keep thinking I have something, I have nothing, because I don't know where to go. And it's just like, I've never been in that situation, of course. And to be honest, you're the first person I know that I met that's been in that situation.
So, really? And so yeah. Being out here in Vegas now, being out here in Vegas now, we lost, we're up to, I think, 60-61 due to the shooting out here. And so they have a memorial garden that they built for the mass shooting out here. And we have medics there. Not just medics. We have airmen there, right? The Aurora movie theater shooting. Right. We had airmen perish there. Frankfurt, airmen, you know. And so if you've never been to the Enlisted Heritage Hall at Gunter, listen. Make your way there. If you're TDY, if you're driving through, if you're in Atlanta, wherever you may be, drive down there and visit. This is the first place Dr. Emily Shade that she has an area in there, the curator. She's a retired Chief Master Sergeant. But the area, I remember when I walked through just to visit, and it said domestic terrorism. And our Air Force enlisted museum or hall. And I said, and there were stories being built about airmen who've been a part of mass shootings.
Wow.
Or been present. Yeah. And so they have an amazing display there, not just for that, but everything from wounded warriors to this historical aspect, MTIs. It's just an amazing, amazing place to visit. You need to block some time to be able to get through the entire facility.
Wow. Yeah. And of course, you didn't have your daughter at the time. So and I know we kind of touched on, you said you wanted to have kids. Why was that?
Why was it? So like, so when I open up, I used to say that I am a Black female lesbian. I'm an airman, right? And so I've always wanted to be a mother. I was always that girl that got the obnoxious gifts for her friends' kids. I'm the one that would show up and play, you know what I mean, to all the birthday parties. But I've always wanted to be a parent. And when I got assigned to Wright-Patterson, I started to undergo fertility treatment. But I took on a stressful job, and so I took a break. And then I got assigned out to Defense Health Agency, and that's when I went through Walter Reed's fertility program and had the amazing opportunity to become a mother to this human here that I adore so much. My gosh, man. Y'all, it's like, it's one, like, to love somebody before they even exist. Like, this love is a God they love. Like, I'm gonna cry just talking about my baby. Like,
and
but how we wanted to. Is because I said the reason why we wanted you to is because I'll never forget being like, or experience a good death experience, and knowing sometimes that we view the world so cruel, you still wanted to bring life into the world.
That was so much better than how I asked the question. That was where I was trying to go, but that was so much better. The finesse on there was love. Yes.
So my good friend Jay Henderson, who was there that night as well too, we were talking about the different things that plagued us after it occurred, and she took a more spiritual route in her recovery. So did I, but I took a retail therapy route, a rabbit petting route, a horse riding route, anything that I needed to get back to who I was before. Although that is never going to happen, but I took my healing seriously. But one thing that she shared with me, because she had children, is what plagued her the most was their innocence, and how one day that's going to be gone when they realize how cruel this world is. And she expressed that to me. And Jade also, the day after we got shot, I kept asking for her because the last thing I saw was her get shot in the head. The last thing I saw. And so I wouldn't get on the plane to leave until they showed me Jade, right? So they rolled us to see each other. And then when we flew out to Dallas, I said again, I need to see Jade. So she was ambulatory. So they took her up to see me. And we prayed and we chose to forgive. And that was instrumental in my recovery process and my healing journey to date. And since choosing to forgive him, right, I don't see him in my nightmares. I'm not stifled by it. I don't let it get in the way of anything. He actually sits up there, come out MRTs, RTAs. He sit there on my board of directors. He's one of the people that if I'm having a tough time or I need to push out some extra sets or reps to pass this PC test or whatever it may be, I think about him and how he did not want me to be here. And I use that as motivation. But that's what works for me. Right. That's what works for me.
Right. Yeah. Man, I mean, I guess that's something that you'll never forget about. And I guess in a bad way, not I guess it is in a bad way that you'll never forget about that. I mean, it's really good you don't see it in your dreams anymore. But how long did that take to go away?
Cool, y'all. Yeah. So at the time, I was going through like a breakup, a career change. It was a lot. And so my dreams, I know we got some mental health experts out there, Jess, you as well, our Chief, you as well. But like my dreams, my attacker was like my lover, and he was breaking my heart and all these different things. And so when I started CPT or cognitive processing therapy, it helped me to keep the memories that I needed, right? And just to dump all the other ones that were not making sense. And how do you do that? You do that by continually writing over and over what you remember, right? Wow. There's some stories out there where like certain celebrity or a news broadcaster or journalist lied, but I empathize with him because he didn't lie. His brain just, it can't differentiate between what's real, what's not, what happened, what didn't. And so that's why when I speak and I share my story, I don't share Jade's version or the other victim's version because I don't know. All I know is from what I saw, right? And so I say that to say I don't. So doing CPT, talking about it, journaling, the Air Force Wounded Warrior program, they have Armando there. He is a special force retiree, amazing guy. Taught me the importance of journaling and getting your thoughts down on paper. And it's something I was afraid to do because of CPT and what came out. But also something that I also encountered was I didn't want to turn into the very thing that tried to kill me. And so hate does not exist for anyone. What I also did have here recently, I spoke at the first ever worldwide First Sergeant Conference for our Air Force Reserve component. And I had a brother and asked me, now FYI, I'm no longer a First Sergeant. Okay. Someone asked that. I'm done as of March. But I had him ask me because he's a gun toting. It's a family thing. When they buy the weapons, they do it in order. Grandfather, dad, him, the serial numbers. Oh, it was so inspiring that I was like, oh my gosh. But he goes, what's one thing as a gun violence survivor that, you wish that you could change? And for me, it's the responsibility of the members who allow those people to either take the weapons from the home, get access to the weapons, don't get them the help that they need. Some type of responsibility there, whatever it may look like, but some responsibility put on them. And so I say that only from my experience because my attacker had an extensive history of mental health. And not just, but criminal. He had an ankle bracelet on when he shot us. Wow. Right? He was on probation or pro. You know what I mean? And so how was he able to go to a shooting range and target practice and then come and shoot us? You know what I mean? Like, why were these people not held accountable? But I couldn't stay there too long because my healing and my recovery was a priority for me. And so, but it still plagues me to this day that no one took responsibility. But I'm not even gonna say no one, because that family has done so much for that city, and for him to tarnish their reputation, I know that was a toll on that family. You know what I mean? So, but for me, my input is more accountability from those who make it or give those members an avenue to have access to those weapons. Yeah, that's 100%. My stance on it. Yeah.
Just go ahead. I got something to say, but I just want to before we're about to close out, I just want to see if you had anything else real quick.
No, I agree. I think that's why I'm torn as well when we talk about it from a mental health perspective, especially when we talk about it in the civilian sector. It's just like, even being a veteran, like I'll be a veteran one day. And I remember some of my colleagues who are also counselors, they talk about the population of veterans that they see. And they were like, PTSD is also a mental health disorder. And I had one of my colleagues that stated, we always see veterans, they're proud to be veterans, but they're also having a lot of issues with PTSD. So I always encourage people, if you are a gun carrying individual and you might have a mental health disorder, I think it's very important to share that with your immediate family as well, so that they can know your limitations when it comes to removal of weapons. So I just think, like, what are those things from a local level? Because every time we hear about shootings, we're always going straight to the top, but it starts at the bottom. And I think that's in the importance that people have to understand when we talk about changing policies. Like, it starts with your local community. It starts with those local representatives and state representatives, like just getting the right people in the office to advocate the initiatives that we need as citizens. But that's like here nor there. But as service members, I think it's so important for us to connect with those people that represent us in these cities that we're from, to advocate for the right things. Because having these shootings is almost like you're not protected anywhere. We have them in church, we have them in the theaters, we have them in schools. It's like we are not protected anywhere. And yes, we always hear people say, hey, we're tired of praying. Like, let's prepare and do something better.
What's interesting is I don't share this with a lot of people. I don't think really anybody knows, but I have another company that I'm part of on the side, and it's a ticket-based company. So kind of like Ticketmaster. You guys have heard of them, but so I got with this company a long time ago, and through COVID and stuff, we were having trouble with getting people to events. And so we paid somebody a great amount of money to figure this out why. And, whether you did surveys or asked people or whatever, the number one reason was not COVID, it was mass shootings. It was so crazy. And I did not think about it. This was a year ago. This is 2022 that we did this survey. But that's the number one reason why it wasn't that, gonna get sick. It wasn't, people are still not vaccinated. It wasn't none of that. It was mass shootings, why people don't want to go to public places anymore and don't want to do public things, which is banana. I mean, it mind blew me. I knew it would be on the list. I didn't know it would be number one. I did not think it would be number one, and number one by a great percentage. So I hope one day.
It is, like, I kid you not, like my kids, they didn't understand why I wanted to stop going to the movies at night. Like, I do not like anybody sitting behind me, like, because I was so nervous. And maybe it's that, the level of anxiety of what we have seen and dealt with in the military. But I'm like, no, like, if I can't go during the day, if I can't pick our seats, like, and I find I find that I'm robbing my kids sometimes of their innocence, because, on the other side, I'm trying to protect them of what I think might happen. But it's so many factors, like, that play into that, y'all.
It is. And over in London and Paris, the active shooter events that happen over there, I know that played a factor into it as well too. And same for me. I love going to concerts, but when I do go, I sit in certain places and I'm out of there before it even ends. And I'm only there because I'm not going to be crippled by what happened to me. But when I'm there, I'm terrified. I am terrified.
Yeah. So how do you enjoy events, really? I mean, I'll be honest. Like
I don't.
so, like, wow. And so, like, I used to go, love to go to the movies and be the first one to go see it, and tell all my
Yeah.
friends about it, be the first one back at work. But now I will not go to an opening movie or opening week or anything weekend. I won't do it until at least 2 weeks. And sometimes I deprive my wife in going to see like Marvel movies or stuff like that. She loves the Marvel stuff, and I know DC's on here. He our Marvel expert when we have questions about stuff. But I have to wait, or I don't have to. I choose to wait 2-3 weeks. And like you, Jess, I'll see how many people are in the theater, and I'll cancel my tickets if it's too many. Or I'll go to an earlier show, or maybe like a Thursday show instead of a Friday show. And I hate that I have to think about these things, and like you said, I don't know how to play the part in enjoying myself, but then also being safe or ensuring maximum safety at the same time. I don't know where that line is. It seems like such a thin line that it kind of sucks to think about that, because I'll tell you, 20 years ago, I wasn't thinking about this at all. But it's kind of weird to think about
We could
that.
be running outside waiting on the street light to come on, and your grandma, your mama be like, "Yo, you better get in here before this 10 o'clock news come on."
Right,
Like, we can't even do that.
right. Yeah, it's pretty bananas. I do have a question for both of y'all before we get off this, and I know I said I was kind of getting into it, but I have a troop. She's a single mom. I'll leave her name out of there because she ain't give me permission to get her name on there. But single mom, and I work the day shift. And we show up to work. We start work at 5:30, so that means you got to be at work at like 4:45, the time you actually have to show up. So the CDC is not open, and so I've been on this flight for going on 3 months now, and probably about a month into it, I'm not thinking anything of it. She's a single mom. I'm not thinking anything of it. She doesn't say anything. One day she just said something like, I'm tired, because what happens is we work Panamas, which means when, we have 2 day shifts. When we're working, the other day shifts off, the other day shifts working, we're off, because we have to keep 24-hour watch. So I was saying, she was complaining that she was tired. And I was like, yeah, it's early in the morning. She's like, no, the person on the other day shifts watches her kid from 4:30 to 6:30 until the CDC opens, and she watches her kid when she's off from 4:30 to 7:30 and takes them to the CDC. So I'm like, you don't ever sleep in past 4:30 ever. Like, this is 7 days a week, and it's been happening for at least a year. And I'm like, how? Like, how do you do this? I don't understand. And I don't know what to do. And I almost felt bad. It's just like, I don't know what to say, though, because I don't know how to get around it besides the retraining aspect. But, for cops right now, it's hard to retrain or put you on a different schedule, but it doesn't matter what schedule you're on. So I even asked her, do you want to go to the back office, which just back office, your Monday through Friday schedule, 7:30, 4:30. And she was like, no, I love my flight, and I don't want to be looked at as that person who just runs because I can't handle something. I'll just rather deal with it. I'm like, that's insane. To me, it's insane, but I don't know how to deal with that. And I don't know if you just let the person deal with it and don't coddle them or deal. I don't know what to say. I guess that's my best way. I'm kind of looking for advice or help with it.
Just hearing you talk about her, what I do love about her, and I agree with her, it's like, help me find ways to, utilize the sources. But it seems as if her and her counterpart are very good at helping, or I like to say, lifting the load for each other. Because in just being a female, I remember I was an admin, but I used to work in vehicle operations. And the chief at the time used to make me go up and do dispatch, and I used to work over them. But I was like one of the only females until we got another female. I never liked being in the office if I had my other people outside. So they were outside inspecting vehicles. I was outside inspecting vehicles with them as well, because it allowed me to be part of the team. Mm-hmm. And I'll say that with her, I think that's like, she loves her job, but she also probably loves being a mom. And that's why she leans on that other individual, because they're in the same boat. And, I get it, the 24-hour watch, the 12s, but sometimes I have seen previous security forces units where they had so many people that they were able to stagger it, where it was like 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, but it still was like a 24-hour watch for everyone. So I don't know if you all have that ability or flexibility to even incorporate those type of shift changes for them.
Yeah. And, my first thing was, the only thing I could really do, like, don't ever ask me, can you show up late? Like, just tell me you're gonna show up late, and we'll deal with it. We'll fix it. Because I never want you to feel like now I think I'm smart enough to know if you're taking advantage of it. But just the fact that you'll bring, I know you wouldn't take advantage. I would hope you wouldn't take advantage of it. But that's the only thing I could really think of do. Like, I'd rather go out there and sit on post for you. For I mean, it's really, and the bad thing, it's only 2 hours or an hour after we break guard mount and do everything like that. So it's not a huge deal, but I just can't imagine having to wake up every morning at 4:30. I mean, I know it's a time, but you have to adjust your time, what time you go to sleep. Like, there's a basketball game on, and I want to watch it. It don't go off till 10, 11 o'clock at night. There's a fight on tonight I want to watch. I'm off tomorrow, so I know I could wake up a little bit later, even 7, 8 o'clock. And not having that ability is just mind blowing to me. Like, I don't know how this person is dealing with it, and I don't know how to express empathy to say that I understand, because I really don't. But I'm trying to think of how to express empathy with it, and I don't know how. D, I don't know if you have some, but you're on mute right now. If you do,
Yeah, because someone over here serenading me.
let her do her thing.
What you're doing already right now is enough. Fast forward 18 years where I'm at right now. My good friend just hit 20. Single mom, single mom. We're doing the same things. Even still now. Hey, can you pick up Giz for me from here because I'm running late? You know what I mean? Not taking into consideration what her day and how tired she may be, right? She's TDY right now, or she just got back. Her 17-year-old man child, he got sick. Y'all know how that could be for him. So I'm like, what does he need in the midst of what I had going on this week? Because this week made 13 years since my incident occurred. So it was a tough week for me, but I didn't care. This mama was out of town and her son might have needed me. So that's going to continue throughout her career. But the fact that she's even telling you, letting you in on it, is more than enough. And the fact that you have a huge, huge heart and you're letting her know, hey, I see you. I recognize your hustle. But for this young lady, this won't last always. This is something she need to do right now in this assignment to make it happen. When she does get selected for back office, because you want to be selected, not put, right? When she does get selected for back office, she'll do that. Right? If she see the ALS position or whatever, FTAC open up on base and that's something that she want to put in for, she'll do that and keep adjusting. But I'm trying to tell you, one thing, we don't need a single parents. Don't feel sorry for us because babe, we got a million ways to make it happen. Right? A million ways to make it happen. But being seen is more than enough. And I adore you for that and wanting to get to yes for her. But it's going to happen and this won't last always. It won't.
Yeah. And I know, final thing, it kind of hurts my heart because I know she's put the job or promotion even or volunteer stuff to the side for her kids, and it sucks. And I don't even know, like I said, I don't have any, and so it really sucks to say, oh, I want to do more, but I damn sure ain't gonna do more for my kid or in place of my kid. You know, and so that's crazy. It's tough to me, and I don't want to say I'm favoritism or showing favoritism to this person, but it's really something I think about. Like, how do you deal with this? How do even when I see them, it's like, how much sleep did you really get last night? And we have to think of those things as being cops and carrying weapons and responding to certain things. I need to think about that stuff, but I damn sure don't want to say, oh, because you have a kid, I want to give you A, B, C, D, because there's single people out there that don't have kids, and I don't want them to pick up the burden either. So it's a tough kind of draw to go in between.
Yeah, it's definitely tough, but please connect us because it's a million ways to make things happen as far as getting in volunteerism. Because as a mother, what does she enjoy and what does she love to do? That might look different. She can still get to yes another kind of way, right? She can probably volunteer to see other things, and so I'll share that with her. Things that I've been able to do as a single parent to still succeed and get to where I am today. And have it in line with what I feel like my purpose is, just not what I think should be done, because I do desire these things or advancements in my career. So please connect us if you don't mind.
No, consider it done. I appreciate that. Yeah, but I really appreciate this episode. I know we went kind of long than normal, but I really appreciate you being on here. Just spot on with bringing her or asking her to come on. Awesome show, and I appreciate everything that you shared. And I know it's the anniversary not too long ago, so thank you for being on here. And I know you have your daughter in the background serenading the songs for us and everything, but I know taking time away from her, even if it's an hour and a half, I know that's special, and I appreciate that. Jess, what you got before we go off?
I want to just say thank you, D. Today, I heard the reading of Psalms 100. And for me, I think about that for you. And you demonstrate the overall summary of Psalms 100, which is being thankful regardless of the circumstance. So I think we are very fortunate to have you come on with us. I look forward to the things that you will continue to do until you decide to, receive your DD 214. But great job as being a shirt. I know you're going back into the medical community and you will flourish as you have flourished in the first sergeant community. That's pretty much it, Pete.
Ma'am, we always leave our last words to the guest, ma'am. So off to you.
So last word to me and my little, just a reminder to keep the most important thing. If you take anything from my talk today, listen, I always sign out with pick your battles and go out swinging. And that's one thing that I've done. That's always put me in the best place in my career and in my life. Don't take yourself too seriously, and just most importantly, don't take a no from someone that's not in position to tell you yes. And that is the reason why I'm still sitting here today, 13 years later, after my life has been rocked and shook with PTSD diagnosis, GAD, gender anxiety disorder diagnosis, having served on special duties. I'm telling you, however, I say all that to say that I am also in tune with that if I am not prepared for the worst day of my life in my career, and that's as a medic, right, helping members on the battlefield. If I'm no longer prepared to make that happen, then I know that it's time for me to transition. Serving with PTSD is not a badge of honor. It's not. It's something that I choose to do. So I'm always here. You can find me in global, Deondra.Parks, at us.af.mil. Don't hesitate. There were some questions in here that I'm going to, when you all post it up to the page, I'm going to put the link and more information on the child care initiative that's happening across some of our cities and the states to help parents get to yes as well too. Thank you all for having us on here and doing everything that you do for us. This is the rawest I've been able to be in 13 years. And I love it, and it's time for it. So thank you again. I appreciate it.
Man, thank you. If you ever want to come back on, we'd love to have you. But Jess, I really appreciate you being on here. And we're signing out. We'll see y'all next week. See y'all later. Unpopular Celebrities. We out here. Peace.